Today you said that Russia could ramp up to 3,000 barrels a day within the next year. Are you planning on increasing exports to Asia, given the Iranian sanctions are already cutting some sales? Like we just saw in August, South Korea has cut to zero in terms of imports from Iran?
Decisions on where to supply oil are made by companies themselves, and they're based on a large number of factors, including contractual terms, including logistics, including premiums and economics, which are in place at the time of the decision in separate markets. And I would also like to say that, and focus on this point, that we have not yet taken any decisions on production growth. We have just spoken about the potential we have and the spare capacity that is there. We will be discussing these decisions and steps which we plan to take in Algeria on the 22nd and 23rd of September when we meet with our colleagues from the JMMC.
Mr. Zanganeh told me that he doesn't expect any countries to get waivers. The U.S. Department of State don't want to give any waivers. Are you prepared? Is Russia prepared to step in if there is needed supply to countries like South Korea and Japan and China?
Our decisions and our actions are based on the assumption that we need to maintain market stability and we need to maintain the market balance. This implies no surplus, no deficit, and this is what we're targeting. Currently, the market is in a position where we can say that it's close to a balanced point. That's why we need to very carefully study the consequences of any decision. We need to keep seasonality in mind. We need to analyze the output potential of other countries and other countries which are not part of the deal, like, for example, United States, as well as the natural decline which we're seeing in countries which are part of the OPEC plus. And when we sum these things up, we're going to sit down at the table with our colleagues in September and discuss.
Mr. Zanganeh thinks that these cuts are for individual caps, while I know you and Mr. Al-Faleh think it's a group cap. He's expected to be in Algeria. How are you going to overcome this hurdle with him?
Talking about quotas, we have slightly stepped away from the quotas or limitations of October 2016. In June of this year, we have agreed that we as a group would add 1 million barrels per day of production to the market to avoid overheating. At the same time, it is now clear that not all countries have the capacity to boost production, and that is why this increase of 1 million barrels has been split among the ones who can increase output. That is Russia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Emirates, and a few others. And that is why I think that we should not be looking at output of individual countries currently. We should be looking at production as a group. If we are to reach our goal of balancing the market, then we actually need to be operating with certain targets and certain figures. That is why we need to work towards achieving them. And it is also now clear that since October 2016, the situation has changed significantly, and in some countries, natural decline, which either started back then or was already in place, it has only accelerated. So each country is in a different situation, but we have a common goal to achieve. And I believe that this balancing is in the interest of all parties, even those who cannot immediately boost output. We, of course, would be glad to see all countries which are part of the OPEC Plus agreement increasing and taking their pro rata share of this increase. But at the same time, we see that this is impossible. But at the same time, all companies and all countries would be interested in avoiding a disbalance in the market, because that would hurt all.
The current deal is set to expire the end of this year, and since you said today you have the spare capacity, would you not be willing to sign on for another cap?
A lot would depend on the approach which we take for the next stint. Would it be quotas which limit production, or would it be a decision to boost production in those countries which can boost production in order to avoid deficit in the market? Well, as it has been before the deal. So I think that once we sit down and discuss these things, I would have a more clear answer. But in any case, regardless of whether we coordinate production volumes and whether we once again bestow these voluntary limitations upon ourselves or not, the mechanism has shown its efficiency. It has shown that it was very useful for the market and beneficial, and it played its role. That is why I believe that we would need to continue cooperation in any case, and have the mechanism ready in case it needs to be used again.